Now, there is a little government agency called the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. The sale price is the actual real listing price, not the fake listing price that they put on there. That's kind of head scratching there, you know? What's up, everybody? Today we are talking about the RealReal. And if you don't know what that is, it is a fashion resale site where people will send in their stuff. You know, they got their old Gucci, their old Balenciaga. They send it into the RealReal, who checks it out, makes sure it's real, supposedly, photographs it, and then lists it for sale on the site. So here we are. It's pretty straightforward. If we go, you know, new arrivals, you go through, they got their Gucci, some kind of lower end stuff like Vince or whatever. But the kind of upside to this compared to Grailed or eBay or something is that people actually send it in, it's checked by a real person to make sure it's authentic, and then it gets listed for sale. So supposedly there's some kind of extra sense of confidence that what you're buying is legitimate here. But here's the thing. I've been noticing some stuff lately that makes me think the RealReal is kind of really sketchy. But first, I've looked into it, and a very, very small percentage of you are actually subscribed to the channel. It's completely free. Just press that button, and you will not regret it. Thank you so much. Now, we'll dive into my personal issues here shortly, but first, I just want to say that I'm not the first person who has called into question some of the business practices at the RealReal. You see, back in 2019, there was a huge issue that they had with fakes being sold on this site. So remember how I said that everything on the RealReal is supposed to be actually real? Well, apparently, at least back in 2019, that wasn't the case. Even some reporters were getting very obviously fake stuff from the site, and they were getting called out. Stories were being written in all these major publications, and basically what ended up happening is that it came out that the RealReal was getting so much stuff in that they couldn't have real authenticators checking everything. So instead they started assigning it to kind of like untrained copywriters who were letting a bunch of fakes pass through the system. Now, all that talk has died down in the news, and it seems like they've cleaned up their act a bit. If you just go on YouTube or whatever, you'll still see people posting about it all the time. Just a couple months ago, you have some issues here, and it just keeps going. Obviously, YouTube videos, you know, you can't be 100% certain that they know what they're talking about either, but there's still some sketchiness there, although at least from the news side of things, they're not talking about it as much. So take that for what you will. But that brings us to now and the subject that I really want to talk about. So on this channel, obviously, I've called out fakes a bunch, but today we're doing something a little bit different, because even if the RealReal only sells real items, I think they have some big issues, just in a different sense. So I think just as a business, they operate in a way that could be seen as misleading, deceptive, maybe even fraudulent. Now, those are big claims, and I am in no way saying I am certain of any of it. I'm just kind of raising the questions, bringing some evidence here, and you can make of it what you will. Now, many of my issues actually apply to a subject that you may deem unimportant or kind of irrelevant, but I really think it is not. And government agencies also do not think it is unimportant in any way, shape, or form. So I want to start off today by talking about promo codes. So the RealReal has a really odd way of doing promo codes in a way that is unlike anybody else. Now, that is because they have a permanent promo code. You see this up here, 20% off, code REAL. Terms apply. Let's take a closer look at this. So basically what's happening here is that no matter what, on pretty much any full price item on the RealReal, right off the bat, as soon as it's listed, you can type in the promo code REAL and get 20% off. Hey, this is pretty cool, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to get 20% off right away any item? But the thing is, if you're offering it immediately on everything, can you really call it a promo code, or is the 20% off price the real price? Now, I have to say, I actually kind of already know the answer to this, because I have historically sold items on the RealReal, and therefore I have a kind of representative at the company who I work through and have conversations with, and I have been told by RealReal staff that the listing price, the full price they put it at on the site, is not the real price due to the permanent 20% off coupon with the promo code REAL. So even staff at the RealReal admit that the listing price isn't the actual price. Now, there is a little government agency called the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and they actually have a lot to say on subjects like this. Obviously, discounting is a huge part of any business, and there are a lot of laws associated with that. And, in the age of the internet, these things are always evolving, so the FTC puts out lots of rulings related to this kind of stuff. So what do they have to say about discounting? And I think the best area to look at here is former price comparisons. The FTC says, if the former price is the actual bona fide price at which the article was offered to the public on a regular basis for a reasonably substantial period of time, it provides a legitimate basis for the advertising of a price comparison. On the RealReal, I don't think you could say that listing price was offered for a reasonably substantial period of time, because the second it is posted on the site, it is eligible for that 20% off. So that's kind of head scratching there, The FTC also says where the former price is genuine, the bargain being advertised is a true one. As we've already said, maybe not a true one here. If, on the other hand, the former price being advertised is not bona fide but fictitious, for example, where an artificial inflated price was established for the purpose of enabling the subsequent offer of a large reduction, the bargain being advertised is a false one. The purchaser is not receiving the unusual value he expects. In such a case, the reduced price is in reality probably just the seller's regular price. This actually sounds a lot like what RealReal staff have told me to my face. Let's look at that again. Where an artificial inflated price was established for the purpose of enabling the subsequent offer of a large reduction, the bargain being advertised is a false one. I think that applies, there is nowhere that applies better than in the RealReal's case. They are listing it at an intentionally inflated price because they know that right off the bat, every single person will be purchasing it with that 20% off discount. It is just assumed by the RealReal, again, as has been stated to me personally. Finally, on the subject of sales, the agency states that the sales should be sufficiently large that the consumer, if he knew what it was, would believe that a genuine bargain or saving was being offered. Again, this promo code is offered right off the bat, so I don't think anyone can in good faith say that a genuine bargain or saving is being offered here. The sale price is the actual real listing price, not the fake listing price that they put on there. So that is sketchy enough. I really think that if this agency were to look specifically into the RealReal, they would have massive issues with this. But honestly, if that's all it was, I wouldn't have a huge issue with it, because at least for me, perhaps some other people this isn't the case, at least for me, I do understand what they're doing, and I don't kind of fool myself into thinking that the listing price is the real price. I just do that calculus in my head with the 20% off built in, and I understand that, although I assume that other people who aren't as familiar with the site may not be. But here is where my issues really get going. So, I was on the RealReal the other day, and I saw they had a little kind of window on the main page there, and it said, if you sign up for text messages from the RealReal, we will give you 20% off. And I thought, hey, that's great. I do a little extra, I get a little extra. I sign up for text, I get a coupon. But, right, the site already has by default 20% off. And that's just standard. It's not even really a promo, as we discussed, because it's off the bat. No matter how sketchy that is from the FTC's potential point of view, it is what it is. But I assumed, of course, if you're going to sign up for text, that 20% off is going to be a real 20% off, not just off the listing price. It's going to be a real coupon that applies to whatever on the site, maybe with a couple exceptions, right? I mean, you already by default give 20% off all full-priced items. So if I'm doing something extra for 20% off, I would assume that that is a special 20% off that isn't just to full-price items. I think it's a reasonable assumption to come to. However, that is very, very much not the case. So I signed up for the text and I get a coupon, and the coupon code was like real SMS, right? And I went to enter that in and it did not work on what I was trying to use it on. So I started getting a bit confused, because if you just get the 20% off with the normal real code, this code should do something additional, because I did something additional. It only makes sense, right? And I could not find anywhere on their site easily available the terms of that coupon. I actually had to email their support to figure out what was going on here. Like, was I experiencing a glitch? Was I misunderstanding something? I have this code, but it's just not working. What's going on? So here's what they said back. Promotional discount codes cannot be combined with markdown items. AKA, this 20% off coupon that I did something extra for works exactly the same as the standard 20% off real coupon that they have available all the time, that only applies to full priced items, full priced, right? So that just doesn't really sit right with me. And I started thinking, yeah, this can't be right. There must be some FTC guidance that applies to this, right? Because like I said, I took an extra step to sign up for the text, so they should give an extra step back beyond what they offer standard all of the time. So the FTC says, in determining whether a representation, that representation being if you sign up for text, you get 20% off, is likely to mislead consumers acting reasonably, courts consider the net impression created. I think my impression was reasonable. I had the thought that this coupon would apply to at least most things on the site. Obviously, pretty much every online site does exclude certain items from promotions for whatever reason, but I assumed at least it would apply more broadly than the standard coupon that they have on the site at all times. But that apparently was not the case. They also add that it's unwise to rely on after-the-fact disclosures. So if the customer wants to know, hey, what are the actual terms of this coupon? Where can I use it? That should be said up front, but at least in my case, I had to email support to find that out. I would consider that an after-the-fact disclosure. And again, I know this might seem kind of pedantic and silly, but the FTC do take these things extremely seriously. They actually warned retailers by saying, deceiving your customers can be costly. Among other cases, the court cited FTC versus FTC v. Stefanchik for the proposition that requiring full refunds for consumers and not just turning over profits is an appropriate remedy. So if the FTC decides to look into this, the RealReal may have to give people all of their money back and let them keep the stuff, and not just after the fact give them the money back that they would have applied from the coupon. They would have to pay everybody back in full. That would be very expensive. The RealReal stuff can be pretty costly. So that's the end of my rant about these promo codes. But I actually do have one more nit to pick, and this one is even nittier than the promo codes thing, but I just think, again, it's another example of some RealReal sketchiness. So take a look at this. Here is something that the RealReal does a lot. You see this Gucci sweater right here? Wool pattern sweater vest with tags, size, and then they give estimated retail $720 right here, and they're selling it for $325. So right off the bat, the consumer is being given the impression that it's already over 50% off. But that's not the case, is it? Because it's not on sale at all right now, and it's $325. They're just giving an arbitrary, kind of nebulous, estimated retail. Who knows where that is coming from, right? Well, I actually do know where they're coming from, because again, as I've stated, I have sold on the RealReal many times before. And here's the deal. This is an arbitrary price that is just entered in, potentially at random, by the original seller. Here, let me show you something. So here's what happens when you go to sell on the RealReal. They send you a kind of like UPS sticker so that you can send a box out full of your stuff, and they also ask that you send out a little form with it. And here is part of that form. So as the seller, I have to put what the item type is, like a hoodie, shirt, belt, whatever, who the designer is, And they also ask you to put in a retail price. And that is where that little estimated retail thing comes from. It's from the seller. So I could put in, okay, this is a t-shirt by Supreme, and the retail price was $3,000. Now, I'm not going to say that they would, without question, put that up, but that is an extreme example of how this actually happens. So that's how that happens, and these estimated retail prices potentially could have no basis in reality and are completely arbitrary. And guess what? The FTC also has a bit to say about this. They say that a retailer who advertises a manufacturer's or distributor's suggested retail price should be careful to avoid creating a false impression that he's offering a reduction from the price at which the product is generally sold in his trade area. Now, let's look at that page on the RealReal again. Now, they've really gone out of their way here. They've been a little bit tricky, and they've made this a bit smaller. But I really do think that to a somewhat reasonable consumer, they could make the mistake of thinking that this is discounted from this price, and they've really not made any efforts to take away from that impression, right? And I'd say it's even worse on the kind of gallery view here that we were on before, where it's listed right under it. That's kind of as clear as day that you're trying to create the impression that it is, to some degree, on sale from that amount. Now, the agency also adds that the manufacturer, distributor, or retailer must in every case act honestly and in good faith in advertising a list price, and not with the intention of establishing a basis or creating an instrumentality for a deceptive comparison. Now, that's a lot of big words, but I do think that there's not a lot of good faith in this, and I do think that it kind of, to some people's eyes, could create a deceptive comparison. Now, while we're on the subject of potential deceptiveness, I do want to talk a little bit about some inside baseball stuff, some behind the scenes stuff. So let me show you a little bit of my dashboard as a seller on the RealReal. So here is my dashboard, and it gives me a lot of good info. I can see, I'm making some sales, doing good, we got some money coming in, and then right here in the middle is my commission rate. So this is supposedly what I should get, what percentage I should get of every sale. So in theory, if something sells for $100, I'm supposed to get $60 of that, 60%. But the thing is, that's not exactly how it works in reality. And again, this is not information that I would say they necessarily make readily available. I actually, back in the day when I was confused about this myself, had to email my rep at the RealReal to find out why I wasn't making as much money as that page said I was supposed to. Now, here's the breakdown here. This is a bit dated because I ended up selling a bit more and going up, but this is roughly how it breaks down. I've kind of whited out any personal information, but again, I had to email to get this info because it was saying at this time I was supposed to be making a 55% commission on my stuff. But I was getting a lot of 40% commissions and things like this. So I emailed and said, hey, what's going on here? And I was told, well, actually what happens is you get a 40% commission if the item is listed for $145 or less, 50% for this range, and you only get the 55% for stuff that's listed at this price right here. So again, that's a bit of a lie, what you're saying, that I'm making 55%, 60%, whatever, when on most items I'm not. You have to be selling pretty nice items to be at this price point on the RealReal. They accept tons of items that are in this price range. Actually, at that time, the majority of what I was listing was in this price range, so I was getting these types of commissions rather than the one that I was told I would be getting. Again, I won't say fraudulent, I won't even say deceptive, I will just say sketchy. And now, the final portion of this video, I just want to talk about a couple little side topics as it relates to the fact that a lot of the time, I don't even know if the RealReal really knows what they're doing, period. There's some very questionable stuff that happens here that I'm like, what were you thinking in this situation? So for instance, recently I've been working on building up my Balenciaga archive, so I've been looking at a lot of Balenciaga listings on the RealReal and other sites, and for every Balenciaga piece of outerwear, so any like jackets, coats, or anything like that, they include this right here, fit. Outerwear by Balenciaga typically fits slim. Consider taking a size up. Now, if you know anything about Balenciaga, at least since 2017, which is what most of the most popular stuff from them on this site would be, because that's when Demna started and when it really took off, everything is absurdly oversized. Maybe 2 or more sizes oversized. So this is as misleading as it gets. Like, this is a size large. The chest is 58 inches. That's like a XL or 2XL sizing, and yet by default they're still putting on every listing that people should be sizing up. It's just wrong. And listen, I'm trying to help the RealReal out here. You're gonna end up getting a ton of returns by giving just wrong information like this. So you know what, I could keep going. I could actually talk about pricing, how they often don't know what they're doing there. Like, I gave them a Marni sweater that was, I think retail on that was like $1,200 or something. It was new with tags. They listed it for $125, which doesn't make any sense. My commission on it was like $58. It sold like 5 minutes after they put it up, which clearly to me states that you listed it at the wrong price. If someone buys it that immediately, you could have gotten much more money out of it. That piece should have been sold for 2-3 times what they put it up for. Same thing, I gave them a Gucci shirt that I think they listed for like $85 or something ridiculous like that, when it was like, it should have been listed for $300-400. Again, it sold immediately before I even had a chance to email them and say, what are you even thinking right now? But that's just my personal nitpick. I don't think, if I have that issue, I should just stop selling with them, right? I guess I haven't really learned my lesson there. But anyway, I've gone on long enough. That's enough for this video. Really, let me know in the comments what your experiences are with the RealReal. Like, if people are still getting fakes from them, I would love to know that. If anyone else has any sketchy discounting or misinformation issues, like, put it all down below. Let's create an archive here of this kind of information, because I think that there's some stuff below the surface here that even I haven't touched on. I'm very curious. So, hey, if you were into this one, check out the other video on screen here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.